This is an auspicious day today, as it is the very last meeting. Diane Valentine will be with us today. Please stand up and take a bow. Perhaps we should be standing up. Maybe we should be standing up. As all finance people do. Thank you for everything that you've done for the town. We really appreciate it. You're always there for us. Thank you. This meeting of the General Governance Committee is being held in a hybrid format with virtual and in-person participation by members of public, staff, and council. Today we have Regional Councillor Sterling Lee and Mayor Collier online. This meeting is also being live streamed and may be viewed online at ajax.ca/live. A friendly reminder to all participants to please use your microphone at all times for the benefit of those participating in council chambers and joining remotely. Now I will call this meeting to order. We would like to begin this meeting by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is situated on the traditional and treaty territories of Mississaugas. More specifically, the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nations, signatory to the Gunshot Treaty of 1788 and the Williams Treaty of 1923. This land is and will continue to be home to Indigenous people. Let us acknowledge the mistakes and traumas of the past through authenticity and support truth and reconciliation. Let us engage and celebrate Indigenous communities by being leaders of action and acknowledging the United Nations Declaration of Rights of Indigenous People and the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's recommendations towards truth and reconciliation. Let us keep these principles close as we continue towards truth and reconciliation and as we move forward with kindness and respect as a community. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest? I would like everyone to know I did shower today. There is a huge gap between me and everyone else, but it's not because of anything personal, I hope. Anyway, I need adoption of the minutes of the regular meeting of October the 14th, moved by Councillor Bauer. Open the vote. Thank you. I need a motion on the closed session of October the 14th. I need Councillor Morin and a vote. Thank you. Oh, thank you. And on our consent agenda, the only thing that hasn't been pulled is 4.1. Can I have a mover for that item? Councillor Henry? And vote, please. Thank you. Thank you. The first poll is 4.2, and that is pulled by Mayor Collier. Are you available for your question? There we go. Okay.
Good morning, Chair. Thank you. I'm pulling this more just for public information because there's been some online stuff about it and I just want to make some clarifications. But first, I suppose I want to talk about the wages and benefits increase because it of course, is 2.3 million over budget. But I don't believe just this or the explanation is correctly giving that information. So I'm going to ask for you to the Treasurer to speak to a little bit about it because I understand. Well, first, I don't believe this truly reflects what's happening because this number does not take into account any grants that are received, any increases in revenues that are coming from increased planning fees, recreation fees, other revenues generated by some of the staffing that we have had to make investments in. So I just would like for the Treasurer to perhaps speak to that a little bit to give a bit more perspective, because I don't think it's fair to just look at this number in isolation and not look at some of the others, such as the number below, grants and donations of 1.778 million. Can Ms. Valentine speak to that, or Julie?
Thank you, through the chair. The numbers that are presented in this report, we do report the actual expenditures in the correct line item. So the salaries and wages and benefits are recorded as expended. However, you're correct, there are areas in the revenue section where we have offsets. So we have WSIB recoveries, we have grants, things where capital projects are staffing, internal staff are being funded through capital projects. So the line item itself does show the actual expenditures on the salary, but there are offsets in various other revenue line items.
Thank you. And that's just the point I want to make. I mean, I don't want people to just look at this and go, oh my God, we're paying everybody way too much money. When there is offsetting revenue that does come into play in some other line items. I think that's a very important piece that's sometimes overlooked. One thing that troubles me, though, is I understand about $1 million of this overage is to do with overtime at fire. And I guess I want to, first of all, is that correct? And secondly, I would ask if the chief could please speak to that, because that is a significant amount.
I can confirm that, yes, just over 900,000 is related to overtime within that line item that we're currently forecasting. So I can pass it over to the chief.
So, Chair, through you to the chief, I'd like an explanation on that, because that's a lot of money, and I think we need to understand that better.
Through the chair to Mayor Collier. The issues surrounding overtime in the emergency services are not something that's isolated to the fire service in Ajax. Earlier this year, I sat in on a presentation from one of the leading law firms in Canada. In the presentation, they detailed what they're calling the perfect storm of events, which is driving up staffing issues and overtime costs across emergency services. They explained that the higher salaries being received are being compounded by various types of entitlements, which are being expanded across the emergency services sector. An example of this was in 2024 in Ajax, an arbitration decision which expanded family emergency leave, an additional statutory holiday, and increased time for bereavement. Further compounding the situation is the increasing utilization of parental and maternity benefit leaves, increasing rates of WSIB claims for PTSD, and mandatory provincial certification for the fire service across Ontario for all services. When all of this is combined, we're seeing large pressures on staffing levels, which reciprocally impact the overtime budget across not just ourselves, but other emergency service partners.
So just to clarify, Chief, that is all just captured just under line item overtime, but that's a fairly significant list of items that are all captured just under that one title.
Through the chair to Mayor, yeah, they're all impacting that one line item of salary. So when someone books off on emergency family leave or additional bereavement time, or they're off on maternity leave, basically it affects our staffing. And with minimum staffing, once we cross that threshold, that's when overtime's called in.
Okay. Unfortunately, I don't think it's getting any better with the collective agreements that I'm seeing come across, but it is what it is in this environment that we live in. I want to switch gears a little bit back to the treasurer and talk about the investment incomes and the slots. The report speaks to the loss of interest income from Alexicon and the decrease of slots revenues. And I don't recall if I saw the loss of dividends from Alexicon either. These are hopefully short-term things that this council and 3 of the other shareholding councils have made the decisions to reinvest back into the corporation that we are partners of to help build towards growth. We're going to have to make that up, and looks like we're doing that through some of our other investments. But, and I've spoken to this before, I am concerned with setting ourselves up for failure going forward with showing gains that we have not received, which are capital gains potentially, and I'll think of it in a second. I can't remember what it's called. And Ms. Valentine, I've spoken about creating more of a reserve fund type approach to this. So even though we're showing, and I'm very happy that our investment portfolio is doing well, growth and gains, we're not actually realizing some of those. And in a year when we have a negative, I think that's going to look poorly, where in reality, I want to make sure we can show this is all the gains we've had cumulatively, which is significant, and then we have a small negative, but overall we're much further ahead. Which I don't see happening with this way of reporting. Is there a way that we can do that?
Through the chair to Mayor Collier. So the investment income or the equities that are shown in this report and that are shown on our financial statements are actually realized equity investments that go back into the pool. We don't record any market values on our portfolio. So this is actual realized equity distributions that we receive on an annual basis.
Okay. Distributions is the word that wasn't coming to my mind, so thank you. And those happen generally at the end of the year. Just going down a little bit further to the long-term one fund income on table 2, and the budget was 353.7, and the forecast is 7.5 million. And I just wonder why such a significant variance in that number from budget to actual forecast.
Through the chair to Mayor Collier. So we don't typically budget. We don't know what the equity distribution is going to be on a given year. We're only advised at the end of the year when these come forward. So based on discussions with one fund, that's our best forecast at this point in time, we will recognize. We typically have not been budgeting for it. This is a fairly new investment for us. So we will take that into consideration and look at that as we go forward.
And I knew the answer. I just wanted you to say the answer because, again, that's an important thing when people are asking questions about some of these things. To be $7-point-something million off on an estimate doesn't look good. And it's just unfortunately a reality. It's not something that we can actually forecast. So I just want to make that point. Those are my questions, Chair. Thank you to you and staff.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for this report? I have one. I noticed online today that a resident had questioned monies that were coming from Durham Region to support the unsheltered. And I'm wondering if there could be an explanation. I'm sorry I didn't give you the heads up, but I know the answer to this question, but I would prefer if it come through staff. Sorry, Cass, I should have given you a heads up.
Through the chair to the chair. So yes, we do recover some costs from the region of Durham. So it's 50% of our costs related to cleanup and security that pertain to a 500-meter radius around the existing shelters. Last year we collected, I believe, $115,000 from the region, and this year so far we've collected about $75,000.
So we're recouping costs that we're already paying.
That's correct.
And I believe that this came out of an Oshawa motion where they had requested Durham Region to pay for their security. I think they were paying something like $2 million, and they came up with an agreement with municipalities that had shelters in their location, correct?
Through the chair, yes. It started with Oshawa, and then we joined the advocacy efforts following 1635 Dundas and Whitby opening, where an agreement was struck with the town of Whitby related to cost recovery. And at that point, the region brought forward a policy, I think it was in June of last year, that spoke to what other municipalities with regionally operated shelters within them were entitled to.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Mayor Collier, did you want to move this?
Yes, I'm happy to move it, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Can you open the vote, please? Thank you. The second poll was 4.3, Regional Councillor Sterling Lee.
Using full names. Thank you, Chair Marilyn Crawford. So I appreciate the report on the climate change reserve. I'm just wondering, so it states in the report that other municipalities use what's called as like a payback method of filling up payback modeling, where I'm assuming any savings used from previous green investments are then put into a reserve fund. Did we ever examine that as an option, or like, I know we've done to our operations center, we have like, LEED certified, we have a lot of green investments already. And I know we've seen savings from those, what currently happens with those savings?
Through the chair to Regional Councillor Lee. So any savings that are recognized are currently just built back into the budget. So we have recognized some savings. We're also seeing some increases on the utility side of things, but right now they're just put back into the budget as part of a line item and used to help offset any tax levy increase.
So typically then, are we able to quantify what that number, like for 2024, for example, you said it's a line item. So what would our total savings have been in that year?
Through the chair, I couldn't speak to that right now. It would just
Yeah,
be in
fair
our
enough.
utility line item that we would look at. I don't think it's substantial. A couple $100,000 maybe.
Sure. And then I guess I think then if this council were to create a climate reserve fund using the payback modeling, that would require a motion from council at the end of the day, correct? To put this forth, like as director of finance, you couldn't just unilaterally make that decision. It has to be put forth through council, correct?
Through the chair, that's correct, yes.
Okay. So just as a comment, then I think there is something to be said about using the money back into investing into green infrastructure, which then will lead to more savings, which leads back to the investment of green infrastructure. I think that is ultimately the only way we'll hit these kind of green targets that we've set for ourselves, more or less, and also become a steward of green responsibility within other municipalities. So I think I'll leave for now. Chair, I'm happy to move the recommendation to receive for information, but I don't think we are done with this discussion. I think maybe perhaps for future councils, it's something to consider building into our long-term financial plans. Okay, thank you, Chair.
If I may, Chair, we do currently use our CCBF funding, which historically was the federal gas tax funding, to construct energy efficient and greening initiatives. So we are very conscientious of these initiatives, and we use grant funding. My only caution is if you're going to set up a reserve and it only puts in minimal amount of funding, you would be handcuffed as to moving forward with some of these larger projects. Whereas in our current situation, there's more flexibility to be able to use other reserves.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other questions on this part? No, it has been moved by Regional Councillor Lee. If you can open the vote. Thank you. Next pull is 4.4, Mayor Collier. Okay. There you go.
Thank you, Chair. I'm juggling about 10 things here. Bunch of phone calls going on as well. Just quickly to this, of course, my usual question, is this, through you to the chief, a Canadian manufacturer? I apologize if it's in here. I don't recall seeing it, but.
Good afternoon, Mayor. Good afternoon, Council.
Go ahead.
Yeah. No problem. Through the chair to the chief, or to the mayor, it is not a Canadian manufacturer. It's a Canadian vendor who is providing the fire truck or fire apparatus. The vendor is located in Woodstock, Ontario. They have several dealerships across the country with over 200 employees, Canadian employees employed at their vendors. Thank you.
Is there a Canadian manufacturer of fire and emergency vehicles such as this?
There, through the chair to the mayor, there is not. It gets a little dicey where they talk about engines and chassis and whatnot. We do have bodybuilders that are in Canada, but we don't have actual fire apparatus frame and chassis builders and engine builders.
Okay, I guess what I'm asking for is, did we look at, through this RFP process, buying the chassis, engine, the base, since we don't make them here, and using the Canadian manufacturer to produce the body? And is that part of this process?
Through the mayor, or through the chair to the mayor, yes, we actually did. We went out to the Canadian manufacturer, Maxi Metal, which is listed in the report as well. They could not fulfill the request or the specifications that we put out. So we ended up going with commercial.
Okay. I guess and I understand that, and you know, we can't bite off our nose to spite our face and trying to source locally if it just doesn't exist, whether it's this or park equipment or whatever else. But what caused this to go over budget? Because it is a bit over, and I'm just wondering, what was the cause of that? Did we extend the scope in this with some extra add-ons?
No, through the chair to the mayor, we are actually under budget on the truck. I can defer to the chief with regards to the replacement equipment that will be going on the truck. That's where it went over budget.
Okay.
Through the chair to Mayor Collier, yeah, so as Scott was saying, the replacement equipment is $110,000 per truck, so that's what caused it to go over budget. When you're looking at fire apparatus as a whole, over the past 5 years, the costing of apparatus have almost doubled. And when you're trying to create these budgets and keep them all in line, that's one of the struggles that we've had over the past number of years, is just determining where it is going to end up.
Okay. And just finally, is there any budget number or line number in this RFP process that speaks to having a consultant oversee this and monitor and go do the inspections, or do we do that internally?
Through the chair to Mayor Collier, we do that internally.
Okay. Thank you so much. Those are my questions, Chair. I'm happy to move this report.
Thank you. Is there any other questions? Okay, moved by Mayor Collier, if you can open the vote. Thank you. The next one pulled is 4.5, Councillor Henry.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to ask some quick questions here. Just give me one moment. I have multiple screens going. So with regards to this renovation, there was some questions that came in with regards to the over budget of this. And I just want to verify with staff and point out, my understanding is, of recollection, back in January 13th GGC of this year, item 4.1, we did have a notice from staff that we would be going into potential over budget expenditure. And when we look at that, we realized at that time that that would be due to things like asbestos abatement, mechanical work that was unforeseen, evacuation equipment. There was a various list of reasons why this would be happening. And from my understanding, we've met all the requirements going through this procedure through the FSP, which is the financial sustainability requirements. And I just would like a staff member to speak to that and verify that that is accurate, and that's why we're at where we're at with 5.4.
So through the chair to Councillor Henry, I'll ask Director Valentin to follow up if I've missed anything. But with respect to the report that's before you today, which is the finalization of the finances relating to this project, you referenced the January report of this year, at which time we knew or were aware that we were going to be over budget. And you've identified some of the components in terms of why we were going to be over budget. Within that report, we estimated the over budget to be around $460,000. This report before you today is showing an actual of $354,000. So we're about $106,000 to the good from what we reported in January of this year. There are some things, obviously, as we go through the project management and the change order approval process, some costs that we challenge and we argue with the general contractor to ensure that they're fair and reasonable. So from an overall project management standpoint, I think staff did a good job in terms of managing and maintaining the cost to try and reduce the over budget that was presented in the report in January.
Thank you. And to the director, I just want to verify through the policies and procedures we have in place regarding the FSP, we did meet all the requirements through the staff side and to make sure that the report came forward. It warned council. Council went ahead with approval, understanding, and knowing that this was going to be an over expenditure. If you could just comment to that.
Yes, we followed the policies that we have in place with respect to procurement regarding this project.
Thank you. That's my only question. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Regional Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Chair. Just a broader question. So these rules of procurement, which I'm sure our staff followed, and overages happen. But just realistically, like, what stops a vendor from considerably underbidding a project, winning the contract, and then just billing us additionally afterwards? Because like, at this point for this report, we have to pay it. Like the service has been done, right? But we're trying to, like, is there anything that protects the municipality from that happening?
I think there's a couple things through the project management standpoint. So first of all, we ensure that we have good contract documents to begin with. So the specifications, the drawings, before we even issue a document for tender, we ensure that it's a good design, we've got good contract documents in place that protect the town. And it clearly lays out what the expectations and the requirements are of the general contractor. So as we go through the process, not only do we have a town staff, we also have our architect who is retained to do contract admin work as well. And we answer questions, we provide directions to the general contractor. Where there is a valid change order, and they happen for a variety of reasons, in situations such as a renovation to a fire hall, you discover asbestos, you dig into the ground, and there's sanitary and water services that need to be enhanced or upgraded that aren't known and wouldn't be known sort of at the design stage. Where there's legitimate change orders, we would then, the contractor would submit a price. Our consultants would verify whether that's fair and reasonable. Quite often in contract documents, we have unit prices that we fall back on to ensure that what we're paying is fair. So we do have a very sort of active day-to-day project manage contract administration role that we perform to ensure those change orders that are approved are reviewed in detail. So it is an ongoing process. Like I said, it's a day-to-day thing, and yeah, we'll end up where we are from a budget standpoint, but we ensure that every change order that is approved is validated and warranted.
So just to summarize, there are safety checks along the way to ensure that we are getting the most fair price and practices are being followed. This is somewhat related. I apologize, Chair, if it's not, but have we ever been in a situation where like the overage has been so obscene that we've had to engage in legal action, for example?
Yeah, I've been involved with some directly where we've been involved with legal action on when we did the fire hall headquarters, when we did the town of Ajax town hall renovations in the early 2000s, where there were significant legal battles that went on for sometimes 15 to 20 years in the case of the Ajax town hall. So yeah, there have been instances. Obviously, nobody really wins in those scenarios from a contractor or a town perspective once you go down that battle. Sometimes you make business decisions to keep a project moving along. There's a variety of factors, but we do get caught up in legal battles from time to time. There are a couple projects currently right now where we are still not in agreement in terms of proposed change orders that are being trying to be sought by a contractor. So it's not uncommon, but I wouldn't say it's common either.
No, and that you know what? It just reinforces that there are safety mechanisms in place, and that when this stuff happens, it's gone through more than one set of eyes. It's not just a rubber stamp. So thank you, Chair. Appreciate it.
I'm assuming that if we had a contractor that continually underbid us, that we would no longer be using them.
So you're correct. At the end of each contract, we do an evaluation of all of our whether it's our consultants, whether it's our general contractors in terms of their performance. If they are challenging from a town perspective and the evaluation is not successful, then we can prevent them from bidding in future jobs.
Thank you. Councillor Morin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Much appreciated. So just before we move on from this final report, from the perspective of a resident, we're talking about the fire hall, which we refer to as Fire Hall 2, which is the one on Westney Road, just north of Kingston on the west side in beautiful Ward 1 that I represent. My question's through you, Madam Chair, to the chief. Would you say now, sir, that that hall is now up to speed and good to go for the foreseeable future?
Through the chair to Councillor Tyler Morin, yes, it is up and going right now, presently and fully staffed.
Okay, good to hear. And we know that the cost, give or take, is about $3 million, maybe a bit more than $3 million, to get that fire hall up to speed and in good working order, which is a lot of money. Now, how much would you say, very, very generally, would be for a brand new hall, like with land acquisition and building and proper for trucks and personnel?
I'm going back
sorry.
I'm going back to $2010, but the existing fire hall headquarters was in the $10 to $12 million range. Sort of when that was built, recognizing that that was 15 years ago.
Right.
My guess is you'd be in the $20 to $25 million range, sort of conservatively, without getting into any discussions on land, location, design, right? There's a number of variables, obviously, that come into play. So you wouldn't be short of, I wouldn't think, $25 million. And in today's dollars, what we're seeing with some other municipal facilities elsewhere, it could be considerably higher than that.
Okay, and I appreciate that number. So I think we can look at 25, maybe even $30 million once, if we're looking at starting it now and then maybe in 5 years it gets built. My point being is that we've got this up and running for about 10% of what it would cost for a brand new facility-ish. My numbers are ish, but just from my perspective, would you agree with that statement-ish?
So just first of all, with respect to the fire hall, this is the one at the Ajax Community Center off of Monarch.
Oh, my correction. Sorry, I stand corrected. Sorry, 2 is on Monarch.
Just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah.
And yeah, the numbers, obviously 4 million as a percentage is in that 10 to 15% range.
Okay. Yeah, that's all I want to say, or want to hear. Thank you so much for that perspective.
The only part that I would add, and the chief could add to it as well, is this also repurposed the fire station to accommodate additional crews as well, whereas before it was largely administrative. So it is much more functional from a fire standpoint as it relates to sort of having firefighters who are actively residing or working out of that station now. So it's much more functional and practical.
Yeah, I'm just, once again, corroborating why I'm asking these questions, because when we first look at the number, it's a big number, and it is a big number if we look at it 2 or 3 times. But in the big picture, it's about 12%, 15, 10% of what a new hall would cost to upgrade this one. So just trying to see value in all these decisions. Those are my questions. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Councillor Henry, would you like to move this? Thank you. Okay, moved by Councillor Henry. If you can open the vote. Thank you. Next item is 4.6. It was initially pulled by Councillor Lee, Regional Councillor Lee, then Councillor Henry, then Councillor Bauer. So we'll start with Regional Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Chair. So thank you for this report. It's good to see that there's a pretty comprehensive plan regarding the Aldi Rec Center. So we mentioned comparators. I think we used Markham, Toronto as kind of our baseline for setting a price. Is there any equivalent in Durham region for like a fairgrounds? Like I know Whitby had that green space they do the Rib Fest in, but in terms of like the kind of space that we have, is there any comparison in Durham region?
No direct comparison, no.
Okay. So these prices, it's based on capacity. What stops a vendor from saying, "Oh yeah, I'm expecting 4,000 people, but it's actually going to be 18,000 people"? Like, is there a mechanism to charge them more if it exceeds capacity? And then, more importantly, how do we measure capacity? Like, I don't imagine we'll have someone clicking people in and out, or will that be the case?
So a couple of things. When I speak of, and you ask about and have questions relating to other fairgrounds in Durham Region, although there's not a fairground such as the one we have in Ajax now, there are other locations that may be private, whether it's Metrolinx at the GO station, whereas we also use the Peakov Downs for our Canada Day celebration. There are, in other locations, Iroquois Park is an example where a Ribfest may be held in the town of Whitby. There are other locations that accommodate large-scale events, but not the formal structure of a fairgrounds in terms of what we've built. Now, with respect to your question in terms of numbers, that's something that we actively will work with sort of the proponents when we do host an event. What we'll do is, as you'll see through this process, the intake process that we have, there's both direct and indirect costs and services that are required to support all special events. So this isn't something that someone can apply for without having a strong plan in place. And that's sort of what this process is really ensuring. We do have the ability to control sort of numbers at the fairgrounds. So based on the number of washrooms, based on the security presence, based on a variety of factors, there are ways, and with external fencing that has been constructed there, we do have the ability to control members. So if, for example, the numbers were increasing beyond what the original intent was, we do have the ability to manage sort of entrance into a particular event. So there are controls in place to manage that.
Okay. So you mentioned additional costs like off-duty police officers, traffic control, waste management shuttles. Will those external, those be offerings from the town? Is this like an a la carte I can add on to my combo package per se, or is this exclusively through third parties?
So a couple of things. Things like waste management, security, portable toilets and hand washing stations, those types of services we do have existing contracts with that we will look to partner with any event host in terms of making them available. In many cases, it would be our preference that they use our vendors. If they do have alternate vendors, we will vet them through the application process. So we're not necessarily making money on those vendors, but they'd be paying our rates based on what our contract is with those particular vendors. There are others relating to, as you mentioned, Durham Regional Police, if there are controls that are required from a traffic standpoint, if there are additional bylaw services that are required, if there are external costs outside of our existing contracts, then those are direct costs that would be paid by the event host. That's something that they would be aware of in advance, so we would have numbers, we would understand costs for security and police presence that would be part of the fee that they would be required to pay. And as you can see, there is a process in terms of how we collect the fees so that there is money collected at least 30 days in advance of the actual event. So the town would not be out of pocket.
And then in terms of the event intake, we'll have a team that kind of monitors. I'm sure there's a huge demand for this. So I just want to make sure that outside of, let's say, a motion from council, the events we set for the calendar year, we'll say 2026, those are somewhat set in stone, right? So both town, DRPS will have foreknowledge of just the amount of resources needed to facilitate various events, right?
So with respect to town events, yes, obviously working with Recreation and Culture and Strategic Affairs and Operations, we will know the town events and the sort of structure and costs around those, and typically Recreation would budget for those accordingly. When we're dealing on the private side, as we've indicated, for 2006, we're looking to accommodate between 6 and 8, between sort of the end of May and the end of September, within that time frame, based on a number of permits that have already been committed to for baseball, for the Audley Recreation Center community room and so forth. Also, some restrictions that we have with respect to hours of work and the availability of staff to cover off those events as well. So we're looking at, although 2006 will be the first year, it'll be in the range of 6 to 8 events that we would feel comfortable hosting.
And then will there be a formal website page for this so that people who are interested can go and start seeing high level how much things cost and where I go to and everything, or is it just contact facilities to see if you can book this?
There will be access available on the town website, and it's something we will be sort of, after this meeting today, obviously we will be looking from the middle of November to the early middle part of December being the 2025 intake period, and then evaluate sort of those those proposals. Right now we do have a few individuals or groups that have contacted us over the course of the year, so they are awaiting sort of this process and the next steps from a town perspective.
And Chair, thank you for, and I'm a bit over, but these fees, will they be reviewed by council annually? Looking at them now, I think we're kind of low. I think we could be making a bit more on this, but obviously this is our first year, so we're kind of ironing details out. But right now, is the plan that these fees are set and will come back to us when we review all our fees, or is this kind of a special case where council will maybe get another chance specifically on these fees?
This will be part of our annual fee review, sort of on a go-forward basis. So in September of each year, this will be part of the review. When we're introducing a new fee such as this, we don't sort of embed it as part of our annual fee review that we do in September. It sort of stands alone for a separate discussion. And then once it's endorsed by council, then it'll become part of our annual review process.
Okay, perfect. Thanks so much, and thank you, Chair.
Councillor Henry.
Thank you, Chair. So I want to start off by saying that staff did a fantastic job on the launch of this fairgrounds. I had a lot of concerns with regards to neighborhood parking and not having that explode into the existing neighborhood. And I had numerous calls and messages, emails, stating what a fantastic job this was, even from quote-unquote critics. People were very surprised and impressed, and Bylaw in particular got a big shout out for the great job they did. So I want to start off by saying that. There is a part in this report that I'd like to get some further comments on before we pass this today. And it says, well, this framework applies to the community groups when requesting the use of the fairgrounds. The town remains the right to use the fairgrounds to program and host events throughout the year. Example, Winterfest. Winterfest will be great at this fairgrounds, no doubt about it. My concern is if we pass this report as is, does this give staff the direction to move an event such as Canada Day from the Ajax Downs, where we do already have ample parking and where the Ajax Downs pays a substantial proportion of the fireworks cost to the fairgrounds without council oversight or being notified of? How does that work? Could someone speak to that, please?
Through the chair to Councillor Henry. Currently, yes, it is our intention to host several internal town events at the fairgrounds next year, chiefly Winterfest and Canada Day. The benefit we have of hosting those events on those dates, they both fall on statutory holidays where a facility is closed, less pressure on our parking lot and the surrounding areas. So we expect to be able to support a larger capacity of people for those particular events.
Thank you. And currently, right now, the Audley Community Recreation Center, the amount of parking spaces in there is it around 300? Am I correct?
It's about 560.
560. And when we deal with Ajax Downs, the parking spaces we have allotted for that is a couple thousand. Would I be correct?
Yeah, there's increased parking at the Downs. With respect to the use at the fairgrounds, we'll be utilizing our parking management strategy, employing shuttle services, and we'll be set up similarly to the design that we had for the fairground opening in September.
Okay, so we're looking at a change of venue, with lower parking on site and more cost for fireworks because now we don't have a partner to help pay for that. And I want to put that concern out there because that is a concern for me. It's also a further concern that recently when we've been speaking with a few groups that want to have some events, it's noted in the report that as of a certain time in September, moving forward to the next year, we cannot have events at the fairgrounds because summer staff are gone, and therefore we don't have the staff support to host something like a Diwali. So when we look at that and we try to redirect those folks back to Ajax Downs is now talking about planting crops in the field that we would have used for parking if we're not going to be having Canada Day there anymore. So that kind of changes our relationship with how we're going to do things there for other, and I just wanted that noted. I know it's not that part's not part of the report, but I wanted it noted. When we talk about the cost in this report for future groups, and we're looking at the 5,000, the 7,500, the 13,500 on page 42 of the report, and the director just referenced a minute ago a reference to the GO station. My understanding is on page 42 of this report, these fees are per day. Is that correct? So if you have a 2-day event, a fee would be ×2 for any one of those group of folks, whether it be 500 to just under 10,000, 10,000 to 20,000. It would be like 13,500 ×2 per day, because it's 13,500 per day or 13,500 per event if it's a 2-day event.
It's my understanding that it's an event fee, not a per day fee.
It's for the event itself.
Correct.
So if could someone just verify that from staff? Yes, we're getting a thumbs up in the crowd that yes, it's per event, not per day. That's good to hear because when I did a comparison with a group that's already existing, it's like $11,000 for the GO Train area per event for a 2-day event. And then you look at, there's no extra fees for parking, there's no extra fees for a few other things that are mentioned in this report. When we look at who will be able to apply for this, and I can name 10 to 15 diverse events that have already come to me last year and I've been waiting a year to put in applications. Is staff looking at, whoever will sit on this board and look at the applications, are we looking to make sure that we are accommodating those that live in Ajax first as far as the event organizer goes? Can someone speak to that? I want to make sure that people from different municipalities aren't coming in and utilizing our fairgrounds for a diverse event that someone in our town is sitting waiting to do for a year. Could someone speak to that?
So through the chair, just 2 things. I'm being corrected that it is a per day event, sort of not a per event.
It is per
fee.
day.
So just to clarify that, yes.
So whoever give the thumbs up, we're going to give a thumbs down now.
No, they didn't give
Okay.
a thumbs up. That was me.
Okay.
So it is a per day fee. The second is with respect to sort of the intake process, which
Yes.
in the report we've identified in the month of May. And that's not sort of a decision that sort of as operations, as a department, that we'd be making that decision. We have an internal team that includes public and strategic affairs and recreation and culture that would be part of the vetting process. So there's a number of factors, obviously, that will go into play in terms of making the determination of the events that we are looking to host in the subsequent year. I'm not sure if there's anything to add at this point in time, other than there's a cross-departmental review that would take place to.
But through this review, and I know a few of the folks that'll be sitting on the board, I think it's a great way to manage this. Please note, I'm in favor of the way that this will be managed through a board procedure, and this way, council's hands off it, and staff are looking at this. This is great. But my concern is I just want someone to verify that we'll be looking at, just like with cricket, we make sure that we're giving first come, first serve to our residents that live here and pay taxes here. And I just want to make sure that's the approach we're looking at now for this as well.
Similar to our allocation policy for our sports fields as well, where we look to local groups sort of first. There would obviously be the Ajax sort of slant that would be looked at in terms of how we would review any submissions.
Excellent. So I'm just going to go back to one more thing before I go. Now that we know that this is per day, not per event fee, and going back to my partner, Regional Councillor Lee's comments about, could we have higher fees? I don't know that that was necessarily understood by him when he made that comment. And I wanted to clarify that, because when we're looking at hosting an event at the GO Train with existing parking, and you don't have to pay for extra routes or anything else, you're looking at $11,000 for 2 days versus the fairgrounds where it's $13,500 per day. So if you have a 2-3 day event, that's adding up. Plus, my understanding is, and correct me if I'm wrong, each route, and we're talking about a shuttle bus route, will have a cost of around $1,200 per route. And you'll need approximately 3 routes, as we did for our inauguration fairgrounds opening day, to get folks to the event. So the cost is becoming more substantial. And I just wanted that kind of understood. I do have concerns, again, about moving the event to Canada Day to the fairgrounds, because although this has been done quite well, we were talking about 5,000 to 8,000 people at the fairgrounds. You're talking 20,000 for Canada Day. And I know there was some feedback from Pumpkinville about folks waiting substantial amounts of times for shuttle buses. So I do have some concerns about moving it this year, Canada Day, to the fairgrounds. And I just want to note that. And I want to hear from the rest of my colleagues if there's any other questions. Thank you.
Councillor Bauer, you were on the list.
Thank you, Chair Crawford. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Director Valentim. I have no questions for you today, but I just wanted to say thank you for your service to the town, and it was a pleasure to work with you. So now I'll talk about the report for the fairgrounds. Most of my questions have been asked, so I'll just ask what I have, and then I've been thinking about this application fee per day. So is there an application fee? Is there a fee to apply?
The fee is what's recommended or listed within the report. That's the $13,500 for large events.
Okay, but there's not an actual administration fee to submit an application, or a pre-consultation fee to meet with staff to make sure everything is what somebody is looking for?
Yeah, you'd submit just the intake form, and then we would do that comprehensive analysis before anyone would move forward with the formal application, at which time they'd be having to pay 25% of the fee to move forward with their application. But we're essentially putting a hold on specific dates for those individual events that we've selected.
Right, okay, thank you. And then you did talk about we're looking for event organizers that have great experience in running these events and kind of know what they're doing and expect large numbers, which is great, a very smart idea. So most of those organizers, in my guess, would have their own list of contacts for their rental fees, et cetera, the vendors that they would go to. And I know you said there's a vetting process. So I just am curious, I'm not sure if you have that vetting process in place already, but what do you expect that you would actually refuse an organizer of using their vendors that they have relationships with? Because that might create difficulties.
Through the chair to Councillor Bauer, I'm not saying we wouldn't consider other vendors, but when you look at things such as portable toilets, we know that the contract we have, the vendor that we have, they're going to get pumped out and cleaned on a regular basis as per our contract during an event. If during an event, whoever provides portable washrooms are not servicing them or providing the support that is required, you could run into a problem during an event. So it's those types of things that we have some concerns with. Similarly, on a waste management side of things, there's certain services that we do have some concerns that if we don't know the vendor and they're not properly supported during an event, it can have a direct impact on the event as well. So those are the type of discussions that we would have, but there could be very reputable vendors that we're
Right.
aware of that's in the marketplace that an event host is using, which we may be fine with. So all I'm saying is we would go through, we would understand, we'd do some research. If there needs to be reference checks on their vendors, we would do that, just to make sure that they're reputable and could deliver the service we would expect.
Awesome, thank you. So, and is there a time frame where you would, like, let's say there's a group that wants to do like a nighttime festival. Would the fairgrounds, and they want to operate until midnight? Is there a timeline, a deadline for that, or would that be something that we would consider? Or you would say, no, the events must be over by 10 p.m.?
Normally, we do have a timeline. Generally, it's beyond 10 o'clock is not something that we would generally want, just based on, there's a number of factors in terms of some constraints that we've got from a staffing perspective with respect to working conditions, right? Like we can only have staff work a certain period of time or with respect to the hours of work. So when we are hosting events at the fairgrounds, we're hoping to be able to schedule staff later in the evening, i.e. beyond midnight, because the next morning there's going to be individuals, park users, that are going to come and use the park and would expect it to be clean. So there is that cleanup component after an event that we're working with staff through a variety of means to try and secure the hours that we need in order to schedule them to work that time. So those are logistical operational things that we've got to work through. Plus the fact there are some improvements that we would probably be recommending to the fairgrounds with respect to lighting and fencing and so forth that aren't currently there right now in order to consider events later into the evening. But right now, I would suggest 10 o'clock would be about as late as we would want to go with any event organizer.
Okay, thank you. And then just back to this per day fee. So let's say I wanted to host something for a weekend, and I expect there's going to be 10,000 people over the course of the weekend. Am I paying $5,000 per day, or am I paying, I guess it is, right? Like, how, my question would, I guess I'm trying to understand, right?
7,500 up to 10,000. So it'd be 7,500 for 2 days.
So 7,500 per day,
2 days.
per 2 days.
For the 2 days. No, per day. He said, yeah, he
Per day.
changed it.
Okay.
Per day, yeah.
Okay. So, okay, never mind, I'm not gonna ask that question anymore, but let's say, so if it is an event where adding on to what Regional Councillor Lee was saying, and we try to track these numbers, what if it is a condition where the organizer has paid for 10,000, but they end up, like, where they have a lot more people than they paid for? Is that a penalty? Where at the end of the event, you'll say, well, you only paid for 5,000 a day, but you actually had 10,000 a day, so we're gonna charge you a penalty. Or reversing that, you thought you were gonna have 10, you only had 5, so we're gonna reimburse you.
With respect to sort of the fee, if there is an increase in numbers beyond what the permit request was, we do have, as I mentioned earlier, the ability to control access to the venue. So there are certain things that we're required to provide from not only a security perspective, but with respect to the health department and the sort of ratio of toilets, hand washing stations,
Right.
and those things to the number of people. So all those things come into effect. So if the numbers are growing increasingly high, we would, or sort of beyond what the permit had, and we were going to jeopardize how people could enjoy the event, then we would have the ability to prevent additional people from entering the site. Now, having said that, we would work with the event organizer sort of in that particular situation. So, so there are controls and mechanisms in place. Again, we're not going to know the exact number,
Yeah.
if you're within a couple hundred one way or another, but it's completely out of line, then we would generally know if there's going to be an increase in numbers, or the event organizers would typically know in advance as well. If they were originally expecting 5,000, but they fear that it might be getting close to 10, then we would hope that we would work with them to make sure that we've got the controls and the infrastructure in place to support the number of people attending.
Right, okay. Okay, no, thank you. Thank you, those are my questions. Thanks, Chair, that's it for now.
Regional Councillor Dice.
Oh, thank you. Just a comment, if I may. I just want to congratulate, first of all, staff for a really well-done event at the opening of the fairgrounds. And it's hard to change habits of people getting in a car and driving someplace and parking on the street or whatever. But you managed it very well with the shuttle buses. They were really, really successful and efficient. And I just wanted you to know I had many, many positive comments about the shuttle buses and the event. So I just wanted to sort of relay that and say congratulations, you did a really good job. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Henry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. One follow-up question off of Councillor Bauer's question with regards to understanding and knowing how many folks will be at an event. Because the fairgrounds has a cost to it, would we be putting in, or would we be looking at in any way, if the vendor, the event organizer had ticket sales or pre-registration, some way in leading us to know what the actual numbers of the event will be? Will that be something we'll be looking at with the events?
Yes, it is.
Okay. I just was trying to wrap my head around how we're going to control this, how we're going to act. If they're putting on a free event and the event organizers are sponsoring and paying for it themselves, and those type of safeguards aren't in place, or in place, I should say, not safeguards, would we be looking at having a staff member there with, they have those clickers at events where, okay, this many people have come through, we're at a capacity. Is there anything like that going to, pardon? Yeah. Is there anything like that coming into place? Would we be looking at failing a pre-registration or a pre-ticket sales?
At this point in time, there wouldn't necessarily be a town staff person at the entry with a clicker sort of maintaining exact numbers. What I can say is there will be a staff presence there throughout an event that's supporting sort of the operational side of things, and through observation, if an event appears to be getting beyond what it was originally intended for, staff would have the ability to go to the event organizer and look at ways that they can sort of curtail or deal with sort of what's happening with respect to attendance.
Okay, thank you. And I'm not trying to be petty here, you went up to 9,999 folks and you're now at 10,000 and now you owe us this much more money. I'm more looking at it for a controlled environment, like you said, to have enough facilities on hand, be it washrooms, hand washing stations, things like that, to accommodate Durham Regional Health, and also for any shuttle bus services that would be needed, right? So if the event is popular and gets bigger, and we have to know that we can be there to facilitate that vendor, that event specialist, and help them be successful without it spilling over into the existing community. So thank you for that.
But the only thing that I would add is we will have a good idea on numbers based on the parking capacity at ARC, the parking capacity within the neighborhood adjacent to the development to the west, the number of vehicles that are at our shuttle locations. So we'll be monitoring all of those all the time. So by the parking capacity in each of those locations, recognizing that people are going to park in one of those three locations, we'll have a good idea of numbers. You sort of have a multiplier that you may use 2.2 people per vehicle. So you've got a pretty good idea in terms of the flow of individuals coming to and leaving the site.
Regional Councillor Lee, would you like to move this?
Yes, please. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Open the vote. Thank you. Okay, we're on to the Roslyn Road reconstruction, 4.7. Regional Councillor Lee, you were first to pull. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate that. So there's been some switches as far as I've seen, and maybe staff can correct me, but the order of the phases, I'd always been led to believe since this project was announced years ago that we were going to start with Salem and Lake Ridge to Audley first, and then do the rest as needed. What prompted the change in the order?
So through the chair to Regional Councillor Lee, I think a couple of things. As we were going through the detailed design process, there's a number of factors that we looked at in terms of looking at the phasing or the segments in the sequence of events for Salem Road. So there's a number of factors such as dealing with the utilities, dealing with a lexicon and the location of the utility poles, knowing how they wish to proceed, which is basically west to east, starting at Westney Road. And once they start in Westney Road, it's going in a sequential way easterly towards Lake Ridge Road. So that was an important driving factor. Another was with respect to real estate or land acquisition and agreements that we need for permissions to enter, for easements and so forth. The complexities of Audley Road to Lake Ridge is going to take some more time from a negotiating standpoint. So it made sense from a utility standpoint, from a land acquisition standpoint, and then also just the sequencing of events from west to east, I think it's a more predictable plan in terms of seeing how we continue with Roslyn Road the way that we started west of Church Street. So it's that west to east direction. And I think in terms of the contractor and the mobilization of the general contractor for constructing the road, it's easy for them as they're mobilized to move in a very efficient way from west to east, as opposed to starting east, remobilizing, having to go back to the west. Because what may happen throughout construction is not everything is linear in terms of the sequence of events. So as we start in the first segment, east of Westney Road, as the utility company, Alexicon in this case, relocates their hydro poles, they may continue into the second segment while the first segment is still under construction. So the logistics around how we build it and the coordination with our utility companies combined with some of the land acquisition requirements, it made sense from a constructability standpoint to start at Westney Road and work in an easterly direction.
I would typically agree with you, but my biggest concern obviously is segment A, which is not only the longest, but also we're trying to time it out in a sense with the regional water depot construction, which hopefully will be at the same time, so we only have to close it once. And then would this also coincide with the Harwood construction as well? Like, I just want to make sure that there are our timing, because again, I've never seen construction hit timing, and that's no one's fault. It's just the nature of the industry. But are we not creating a perfect storm with segment A in terms of all these things kind of have to line up in order for it to kind of be the most optimal construction phase?
So first of all, with respect to Harwood, you are correct. That is slated for a mid-2026 startup and construction period. So that should happen mostly during the 2026 construction season. The majority of sort of Roslyn Road will start at Westney Road and move in an easterly direction to Harwood Avenue in 2026 as well. There still is a commitment on Roslyn Road for that for that first segment. There will be an interim lane that needs to be built to ensure that we're not losing any capacity along Roslyn Road. So Roslyn Road will stay open and will not be closed for two-way traffic at all times. So that is something that's been factored in. Although there'll be construction, there'll still be full vehicle movement, both in an easterly and westerly direction, just like Harwood Avenue North. There are alternate routes if people go south, and I would expect like your Carrisons and your McGills and your Williamsons to be a little busier during this time, as people will probably try and avoid Roslyn Road and potentially Harwood Avenue as well. So those were all taken into account when we put together the phasing plan. And as I mentioned before, I think the benefits of moving in this direction sort of outweigh some of the cons associated with that.
You mentioned the detouring, and I'm glad you did. That's kind of my last question is, will we be in coordination either with our own traffic or the region's traffic to adjust signalizations to help accommodate for the overflow detour traffic?
Yes, we will. And one of the other components within the report is to try and minimize traffic disruption, is especially at key intersections such as Harwood and Salem Road, is try and minimize the traffic impact by having a lot of that work occurring overnight, right? So when there's minimal vehicles on the road, that it would make sense for some of that work to take place at key intersections, keeping in mind noise, lighting, those types of things, respecting the residents in the area, that we should be able to keep the volume of noise to a minimal level.
And just to reiterate one more time, so now this is one giant project. If council had not passed that motion, I think it was March or whenever, and we had done this segmented, would that have changed anything in terms of what we've discussed so far in terms of timing, costs, or anything? Or generally, we still think this unified construction project is the best path forward?
I do still think the unified approach going forward is the best from a constructability standpoint, just in terms of managing timelines and managing costs and flexibility for a contractor to move from the first segment to the second segment for a variety of reasons. They could be involved with, as I mentioned, not only the utilities, but some grading work, some underground servicing work that they may wish to start in another segment while they're doing a certain portion of one. So there's multiple things that can happen in each of the three segments at various times, and it gives a contractor that flexibility. So I do see there being that benefit. If, knowing what we know now, having gone through the detailed design, when we were preparing our 2026 budget, it's likely that if it was still in two phases, that we would have still been recommending the switch to go from Westney Road to Harwood within the capital budget for 2026. So I don't think it really changes. It does change in terms of how we would have positioned the capital budget, but I do think the approach that we're taking for it to be awarded to one contractor sort of over the next 3 years is the right approach.
Well, as the sole person who voted against it, I hope to be proven wrong. You seem to have a really good plan, and hope to see it executed as outlined. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Henry.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Director. I do have a few questions. So the first one would be, could you clarify why the intersection work is being scheduled during the overnight hours of 9 p.m. to 5 p.m.? I'd like to understand the rationale, particularly in terms of benefits to the project, timelines, and cost savings. Additionally, are we anticipating any impacts on nearby residents, sleep patterns, especially in the Harwood-Roslyn and Rushword-Lloydminster-Roslyn areas? That's question 1 of 3.
With respect to sort of the intersection work, as I mentioned, those are areas where there is significant traffic volumes that are sort of traveling through the intersection, both north, south, and east, west. We do try and would try to avoid peak hours and rush hour traffic for doing those intersection works. From a construction standpoint, it makes the most sense and is the most efficient to do it sort of between 10 p.m. and 5 a.m. when there's low volumes of traffic and there's minimal impact to travelers, both, as I said, in an east-west and north-south direction. The construction that we would be looking at, I do not envision it would have an impact with respect to residents that aren't immediately adjacent to it, but who may be in close proximity to it. That's something obviously that we would monitor if we did become advised that there was a significant issue, then that's obviously something that we would need to deal with sort of during the construction period. If it meant, if it was proven to be too excessive from a noise standpoint, and they were legitimate concerns that were being raised, then we would revisit it with the contractor at that time.
Excellent, thank you for the answer. Number two, right turn lanes to the Christian Pickering School. We've had some concerns by the property owner, and I want to know, is it feasible to include a dedicated right turn lane from Roslyn Road into the Christian Pickering School? If not, could you explain the design constraints such as tapering lengths or other limiting factors?
So this has been reviewed, and I know it was conveyed at the public open house as well. It's not possible. When you look at the entrance off of Roslyn Road in the location of Spitty and the requirements for the length of the tapered lane that would be required, it's insufficient and would be unsafe. So I know it's something that the consulting engineer did look at. It's something that there are design standards for a posted 60-kilometer road that need to be met, and it would not meet that test when it comes to the taper lane and the right-hand turn lane that would be required in order to provide access to the school.
Okay, thank you. And three, full closure versus partial access for Audley to Lake Ridge. What are the project time and cost benefits of a full closure of Roslyn Road between Audley and Lake Ridge compared to maintaining partial access and regular traffic flow during the construction phase?
Through the chair again to Councillor Henry, there's two primary benefits being time and money. So with respect to the full closure of Roslyn Road, we would be able to reduce the construction timeline for that segment by about 50%. So I'm using ballpark, but if we did a full closure, it may take and be closed for 3 months, versus if we did the staggered, it may be 6 months in terms of the length of time it took to construct that. For that segment as well, there'd be at least a 20% savings, and that could be in the range of $2 million, just based on rough estimates that we did a year ago. It could be more than that. But because of the interim measures, retaining walls that would need to be put in place because of the changing grade of Roslyn Road, it's being brought up by about 5 feet to increase the size of a box culvert that's needed for Lynn Creek. There would be at least a $2 million savings by doing it all in one shot as opposed to a phased approach.
Well, that's a really good answer to me, because I heard cost savings and I heard shortened time construction. Are we going to be making these communications of our plans known to DDSB and DCDSB, both school boards, well, and the French school board as well, making sure that all school boards are aware of this for any timelines relating to bus routes? Because I know in particular this could, and also Durham Transit, because we have students that go to specialty gifted programs at All Saints traveling from Ajax over to Whitby. We know that we have a lot of bus routes in and around the Sundial and Castlefield subdivisions. Are we going to be having a communication piece with them now, letting them know this will be coming in the future, even though it's like a year out or a year and a half out?
We will continue to have a very sort of aggressive communication plan. The school boards are already aware. They have been contacted sort of through the initial design process, just like the region of Durham. Adjacent developers such as Medallion. There are a number of stakeholders, existing business owners along Roslyn Road as well, because we need to work with them just to ensure access in and out of their developments as well. So, as well as local residents. So our website will actively have a current sort of communications page to go to, and then there will be direct communication to the various stakeholders throughout the process.
Thank you. I'd like to say that this report exceeded my expectations. It was very well done, very well thought out, a lot of details. And thank you to Ronel Fernando for all his hard work on this report. And thank you for answering my questions.
Councillor Morin.
Thank you, Chair. I know we have people waiting in the gallery, so I'll try to expedite my questions quickly here. So a couple things. Number one, very happy for this report, and happy to see that we're addressing the parking lot that is the eastbound traffic on Roslyn Road that goes up the hill that happens every single night and hear a lot about. Marilyn hears lots about. Regional Councillor Marilyn Crawford. Quick question, number one, will we see this shovels in the ground first half of 2026?
So, subject to budget approval, our plan is to complete the design, in which case we'd be tendering. So, step back. We'll be going through a pre-qualification process first. So that is to select hopefully 5 or 6 general contractors that would then be the GCs that would bid on the job. We'd probably be looking to issue the bid documents towards the end of the first quarter of 2026. So in the March-April timeframe, it'll take a month or so to go through the procurement process. The report would have to come back to council for approval. So we're estimating sort of a May ballpark timeframe to bring a contract award report, but then by the time all the insurance, WSIB information comes in and the mobilization on site, you're into the middle of the year. So June would be an estimate.
Okay, I appreciate that. Number two, the hill that is now, I don't want to get too deep in design here, but just really quickly, when you're going eastbound on Roslyn and you get to Audley, and then you get into the Greenbelt, which looks more rural, when you're going down that hill, will it eventually be smoothed out the way it was by Church to Brock, that kind of thing? Is that happening?
So that is one of the, not challenges, but sort of the design requirements that was identified through the environmental assessment, was raising the profile of Roslyn Road sort of in the valley, sort of as you go between Audley and Lakeridge Road by about 1.5 meters, right? And a lot of that is being driven by Conservation Authority's requirements for the Linton Creek that runs beneath it and the size of culvert that is being required by them. So there's multiple factors that are going in, but yes, the road profile will be raised through that section.
Okay, and my last question, the good people that live on Trowell Lane, which is just east of Bennett and just west of Harwood on the south side, they have a hard time coming out of there now, going left. It's pretty much a right in, right out scenario for them, even though there is no island there and they are able to make the left. Do you know off the top of your head if there's going to be any concessions made for that? I've even requested a do not block intersection component, so that they could maybe come out of there. Of course, there's enforcement. But do you have anything to say about that intersection? If I may, just quickly, it was described as a private road, but we have taxpayers in there. Like, I don't think they think it's a private road. It's Trowell Lane. It's another street in Ajax. So, is there any concessions?
So at this point, the road, in terms of Roslyn itself, it will continue to function sort of the way that it currently is. Could there be signage added about not blocking an intersection? I don't know how much that would benefit. I think we've got situations like that all across the region when you look at different access points out onto major arterial roads. Normally it's common sense, right, in terms of being someone in a vehicle to let someone exiting a neighborhood like that out. It's a fairly small contained private development, so it's not like it's a connection of local private roads that has large volumes of traffic. So yeah, I wouldn't expect the conditions to change too much, other than the fact that it would be sort of a 4-lane road now, so it may give a little more flexibility for people to move over into the left lane to allow them out.
So there'll be extra lanes there. Do you know if at that point, will there be a center lane? I don't think so, right? I think it'll be 2 and 2.
I don't believe there is a center median coming that far. I'd have to double check. I'm not 100% certain.
No, but that's a bit of an explanation, because I was told that it could improve with having extra lanes, because then it gives you a bit more. Anyways, way more, too much detail here. Thank you very much for letting me in, Madam Chair.
I just have a quick question. I think it's a quick question. So when Medallion, the Medallion development it's already currently started, was there any kind of agreement with them on timing for that section of Roslyn? I'm just I kind of thought there was something, but I just wanted to confirm that.
My recollection that it was tied to the second phase of development, but I'll let
Okay.
Mr. Romaneski confirm that.
Yeah, through the chair to the chair, yeah, it's tied to the second building at the Medallion development.
The bigger
So-
one, right?
The bigger one, yeah.
So-
Well, they're all relatively the same height, but it's the second building is what it's tied to.
And the agreement was they can build, but they can't occupy until the road is widened, is that correct?
Correct, I
something like
believe
that?
that's what it is. Stev's on the line too. She could speak to that, but I believe that's kind of the ballpark that we're looking
Right, so
at.
the current construction they have going right now,
Is fine.
once it's ready to get
It
occupied.
can keep going.
It can keep going.
Nothing changes. Rosslyn is what it is. It's the next one that's the trigger for Rosslyn to be done. So it's kind of a chicken and egg
Right.
thing there. Yeah.
One other question I had was, at the open house that we had for Roslyn Road, some of the residents were expecting a response from their questions. Would we be doing that, I don't know, in the near future? We just had a question from our community meeting on that.
Through the chair, thank you for the question. Yes, we will be. The questions and answers have been prepared.
Okay,
They're with communications right now. They're going through the formatting, and it should be on the website this week sometime.
excellent, thank you so much, appreciate that. I got a whole bunch more questions. Oh my gosh, sorry, I thought I was wrapping up. Councillor Henry.
Sorry, I thought we were wrapping up too, and I was just going to say happy to move. Sorry, go ahead.
Regional Councillor Lee? Oh, sorry.
I think I'm on.
I think I put you on, okay, never mind. You
Is that
go
okay?
off. You go off. You're
Or,
not
no,
supposed to
it was,
I'm gonna kick you.
No, Rob, I insist, please.
Go ahead.
Okay,
Go
never mind.
ahead.
Chair, I just wanted to make sure, is there a decision being made in terms of the options of closing partial or closing full, or is that to come later? I think the recommendation of the report is receive for information, and I'm assuming those decisions come later, or do you want them now?
Through the chair, you are correct. This is a report being recommended for information. The components of this report will be built into the tender document. So when we are looking at sort of the closure of Roslyn Road east of Audley Road, we would, when we're getting competitive bids and prices, we would be looking to incorporate that into the bid document. So that is something that we would be looking to incorporate. Having said that, that will be a few months down the road, but that is the direction we're looking to proceed.
But currently, as according to this meeting, you don't need us to make that decision. You're going to come back to us with a decision, or more or less, if we receive information, we're going to go with the staff recommendation of closing all of Roslyn Road.
The section of Audley Road that would be closed is a small section. It's where, as Councillor Moran had mentioned before, it's where the dip in the road is, where we have to raise the profile of the road. But that essentially closes Audley to Lake Ridge in its entirety, so that third segment, with the exception of obviously local access to property owners that require access, that would obviously be maintained. But that is something that we would look to build into the tender documents. It's not something that we would normally come to council with for a resolution. That's how we would sort of proceed and deal with it from a communications perspective. But yeah, I'm not sure what council's thoughts are on that.
Sorry, no, I sorry. Yeah, and I appreciate that response. It's just like there's a few just not misleading. Just it says recommended option full road closure option 2, and I'm assuming by endorsing that we are going with the recommend. I have not heard either way whether what residents prefer, so to speak. I think this one's cheaper and faster, so that's why I would get my vote. I just want to make sure all of council is aware that if we do receive for information, we're also receiving that component, or whether an amendment is necessary. Not for me, but that now's the time to make the amendment, I guess is what I'm suggesting, correct?
And just following up, I know sort of the example that we're following is similar to what occurred in Whitby with respect to the construction of the 412 and the widening of Roslyn Road, where it was closed for several months as well. So this isn't the first time where we've sort of gone through or exercised this, but it will be a few months, and it will obviously have have an impact by its full closure.
I really hope it's in September of next year. I have a point of clarification from Councillor Henry.
Thank you. Just a point of clarification on Regional Councillor Lee's question. When we talk about the closing of Roslyn Road from Audley to Lake Ridge, we're talking about this immediately, or we're talking about this in stage 2 or 3? We're talking later in 27, 28? Could you speak to that, please?
2028.
2028. So we're voting on closing something years from now. And again, even though you're putting out the bid for that now, if something was to change, you'd come back to council next term and say something has changed in this project and we have veered and we're not going to close it, or we're going to do something else, correct?
And this is one example. There could be unknowns sort of through a project of this size that may necessitate us coming back to council at a future date. So based on the design and sort of what we know today and the way we plan on bidding it, this is the information that we have. But like any major capital project, if there is additional information that council requires or we need further direction, we would come back to council.
So again, just to finish this streamline of thought, we vote on this today. We are not closing that section of Roslyn Road for 26. There's no immediate closure.
It's in the third segment, which is 2028. That's correct.
Thank you.
Councillor Morin.
A very rare second time for me. Extremely quick question. Marilyn and I meet with, Regional Councillor Marilyn Crawford and I meet with the residents at number 3 Roslyn Road West, which is on the south side of the road, just west of Harwood. And they're 55 plus, older adults, lovely people, and they say the following: when I take my walker and I walk east up towards Harwood, the grounds, and they're right, we walked it, it's all broke, it's all chipped, it's very cumbersome for strollers, but especially for a walker. Can we say to them that when the widening's done, it'll include rehabilitating and cleaning that whole walkway surface?
Yes.
Thank you.
I will have my walker ready. This report is going to be moved by Councillor Henry. Vote is open. Thank you. We have lawyers in the gallery that are getting their calculator out. We need to get them into in-camera now so we can get them moved on. So I've been asked if we can pause the public portion
Sorry,
and go.
to you, Madam Chair.
What, not now?
No, not now. We
Okay, never mind. What was? Okay, never mind. Sorry, start adding up. Okay, wait, so we have one more pull here, and a more pull. Oh, Councillor Henry, what do you want? You're not on the next list. Okay, beautiful. 4.8, I have Councillor Bauer, yes, and the mayor has left the building, so it's just you.
Me. Okay, thank you, Chair. I just have one quick question about this report. Thank you for the report. It's very exciting news, actually, the potential of this. And my only question was specifically regarding the expansion and the refurbishment. Is there any expected impact or concern for the residential neighborhood that's close by on the other side of Hunt Street? Oh. Hi, Stev.
Thank you. Through the chair to Councillor Bauer. So the hub facility, which is going to be a new building behind the existing facility, will be going through a zoning bylaw amendment and a site plan amendment application.
Okay.
Through those processes, we will evaluate any noise impacts, mitigate those noise impacts. There won't be any air quality impacts from that hub facility. And as it being a zoning bylaw amendment, it will be a public meeting will be held, and all residents within the legislated circulation area of 120 meters will be notified of the public meeting.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Is there an expected timeline for that?
My understanding is that the application may be submitted sometime in early 2026.
Okay. Thank you so much. Great information. Thank you, Chair. That was my only question. Happy to move this.
Okay. All right, I have no other questions. The vote is open. Great. 4.9, Councillor Henry and Councillor Bauer pulled this. So Councillor Henry?
Thank you, Chair. This is the one I had my mic on for. Okay. So I just wanted to say that the report was really well done. A lot of information in there. Shows a clear need for something like this in place. And this came out of a motion that local councillor Tyler Moore and myself brought forward a while ago, and in full support of this report to move forward. And I believe my colleague has an amendment he's going to bring forward. So thank you.
Councillor Morin?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Councillor Henry, for doing this motion with me to begin with, and for the support from our council colleagues and the start of it all from Marilyn Crawford. So just so everyone knows what we're talking about, this is a situation where if it doesn't apply to you, it wouldn't register. You would say, what is this all about? But if it does apply to you, it's extremely important that you stay in your home these days. It's usually more economical, but then you need medical help, and those helping with medical are getting tickets. So this is a move to try and clean that up. Obviously, there's a lot of parameters that we have to stay within. I'll just read a couple of just whereas access to adequate overnight parking is a concern for residents, require ongoing medical support during late or overnight hours. Another one would be caregivers and medical professionals often provide essential care outside of standard hours, which may result in parking infractions that create unnecessary hardship for families that are dealing with grave medical situations. So this is really just to help them out. The other great thing about this motion and this direction to staff is that it doesn't cost anything. There are no financial implications resulting from these recommendations, so that's huge. And when it's appropriate, Madam Chair, I have a motion to direct staff to do this, to implement it. So whenever that's, whenever you're ready.
Could you hold? I should have let Councillor Bauer go first because she pulled it.
100%.
So you don't need to repeat all what you said, but you can do the motion after that.
Yeah.
Councillor Bauer, sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So just a quick question for who would qualify for this relief? So some of the information that Bylaw Services has listed in the report that they would require would be the name, address, and telephone number, the proof of employment or credential verification for independent providers as a medical support practitioner, and general information about the services being provided. So definitely necessary information. So my question would be, what if it is a family member, which is often the case? So my father lives somewhere, me and my 2 sisters or 3 sisters are going to take turns caring for him, and we need to take turns going over at who knows what time to provide those services. Would we be able to apply for this relief?
Through the chair to Councillor Bauer, yes, we are hoping to, or intending that we would capture that circumstance under this program. We did have a bit of an internal debate about this because some of the programs that we benchmarked licensed just the, or not licensed, but provided relief to just the organization that employed the workers, where it seemed to us that there are a lot of circumstances like the one you just described, or sole proprietors offering these type of services. So our intention is to capture a wider net, but of course there would have to be some rigor in satisfying ourselves that the person is performing that type of work. So we'll go through that as part of the application process. But yes, we are intending to capture that type of circumstance.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. That was my only question.
Thank you. I just wanted to add that I think in theory this has been happening on an ongoing basis anyway. This just really just formalizes it, this whole process in motion. So I believe, did you want to bring a motion forward now? Okay, Councillor Morin.
If I may. Yeah, so I really hope that the honor system, happens here. Like, this is a serious issue for families, and I hope nobody abuses this. And I understand there could be some tweaks. This is a bit loose on how it's all going to work, but I do really appreciate the report. So I have a motion that staff be directed to implement a parking relief program for medical supports substantially as described within report CS 2025-21. And hopefully getting support from my council colleagues on this.
Regional Councillor Dies.
Yes, thank you. And I appreciate the motion coming forward, and just wanted to add that I had recently read some statistical information on the number of trips women make in the car a day, and they were 5, to and from work, to and from daycare, and at the end of the day, they go into the community to look after a loved one. So and I've been there too, I think we've all been there, where we've had that responsibility. So I think it really is something that, warrants consideration. And also, I'm pleased to see that the overnight times are also allowed, because often there are PSWs that come in for overnight, because that's the worst time for elderly patients who wake up and are disoriented and usually fall. So thank you very much for this. It's much appreciated.
Okay, I'm looking for direction. We don't need a seconder, correct? Because this is, and I don't know, do we do motions at GGC?
Yeah, so through you, Madam Chair, first I would get a mover to put the original motion on the floor, which is to receive for information.
Right, so Councillor Henry will move for information.
Perfect, and then
we'll
Councillor
vote?
Rob Tyler Moore, nope, not yet. Councillor Rob Tyler Moore has put an amendment on the agenda today, so can we put that back on the screen, please? And we'll call the vote on the amendment.
Okay, perfect. And then when it comes to council, do you need a seconder then, or?
So when it comes to council, it'll be part of the GGC report, and it'll only be pulled if somebody pulls it from the GGC report.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, I'm gonna start, if there's no other questions, I'll start the vote. Perfect, thank you very much. All right, that
And now,
is,
sorry to you, Madam Chair, now we'll just do main motion as amended.
yes, main motion as amended. Can you, yeah?
Just to be clear from Madam Clerk, did you say that in the next council meeting, we'll have to pull this again?
No, so through you, Madam Chair, this will be part of the GGC report. I was just clarifying for the chair that you don't need a seconder if it just continues through the GGC report.
Great, so it'll just be ratified, assuming that it doesn't get pulled, it's just put through.
Correct.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, if there's no other questions, I'll call the vote. Oh, wait, yeah, this is it, right? Yeah, okay. On the main motion as amended. Perfect. All right, that completes the consent agenda. Not too bad. Oh, I thought you were talking to me. We have a presentation on the GIS strategy implementation update. How are you?
I am good, thank you, Madam Chair.
Good, good.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, council, department heads, as well as residents who are joining us online. I'm really excited to be here today to provide an update on our GIS strategic plan implementation. My name is Laura Delapalm, and I am the manager of GIS and data services here, for those of you who do not know me. So just a little bit about GIS. Most of our corporate data sets relate to some sort of location in some way. So whether that be an address, property, a town asset, something like a town-owned tree or street light, or incidents and events that we have at the town. And what makes GIS so special is it links data to a spatial location, and it often provides us with more insight and uncovers patterns that might not be clear when you're looking at the same data in a tabular format or in a database. So it provides us this spatial context that we might not have elsewhere. In addition to that, GIS also allows us to integrate with other corporate data sets and bring data that is in various corporate databases to life in a different way. Allows us to get, again, more insight and have that single source of truth that we can all rely on and know that we can get good information from our systems. It also allows us to have real-time or almost real-time data updates, which allows us to reduce duplication and improve our overall data quality. GIS can also help us automate repetitive tasks, so things like data transformations, generating reports, or creating maps. This reduces manual entry, it minimizes errors, and it frees up staff time for higher value work. In addition to that, GIS can also help us deliver this information in things like dashboards and interactive maps, which can help make complex data sets easier to understand. Ultimately, GIS really makes our work more efficient and impactful as a corporation. So the GIS and data team has made substantial progress since we started the implementation of our strategy in the later half of 2022. And we have a significant number of initiatives either completed or actively ongoing, or in progress, as you can see by this dashboard that we created, and we update accordingly to keep ourselves or hold ourselves accountable and track our progress really easily. So out of the 208 actionable or recommended items, we have completed or ongoing 84 of those, and we have 28 initiatives currently on the go. And this includes things like capturing new spatial data sets, improving data quality, as well as rolling out new, really cool GIS applications and integrations. And this progress is on top of our day-to-day requests that we receive from all departments across the corporation, as well as some of the larger corporate projects that the team is involved in. So this progress, showing that we have completed or have in progress over half of the actual items that came out of the strategic plan, really demonstrates the momentum, as well as the commitment that our team has towards the strategic plan and moving forward with our goals of really making data at the town more usable and accessible for everyone. So to highlight some of the work that we've done here, I wanted to share a couple examples of what we've accomplished so far. Some you may have heard of and some you might not have heard of. So the first thing that I'm going to cover is one of the most impactful internal changes that we have found, which has been automating manual data update processes. So one of our important GIS layers or data sets that we maintain at the town is our parcel layer, or our property boundary data, which is used for a variety of things such as land use planning as well as asset management. Previously, our update process for updating this data set was a highly manual workflow that required staff to follow a 10-page step-by-step instructions that involved things like downloading files, various data transformations, as well as manually updating our data in our GIS databases. This manual process would take someone from my team a full day to complete once a month. And it was quite time consuming, as you can see, and also was prone to errors, as there's just so many steps that you need to follow. So with the recommendation of our strategic plan to procure an ETL tool to streamline and automate these types of repetitive tasks, we implemented a solution called FME, which in this case allowed us to build a workflow that transformed this process into a simple drag and drop interface. So what used to take a full day now takes 5 minutes. The team now takes the zip file we received from the region and literally just drags and drops it onto this page that you can see here in the slide deck. And it is completed within 5 minutes, updating, going through all the steps, including updating our production databases. So automating time-consuming processes like this, using ETL as well as AI tools, has really allowed our team to improve our efficiency, reduce errors, and allowed our team to focus on more important things like strategic initiatives rather than be bogged down with these manual data entries and manipulations. The next project I wanted to highlight is a project we collaborated with our Operations and Environmental Services Department to create a service request dashboard that pulls data directly from our CityWorks work management system and allowing staff to view and analyze asset-related complaints and service requests for all town assets. What used to require various reports and inboxes to be created and reviewed on a monthly basis is now available all in one place and near real-time data. Staff can now explore the data visually on a map with clustered symbols to view trends, and the data can be filtered by things like asset type, time period of when these requests came in, intake methods, whether they came in via email, phone call, as well as wards. Detailed request information can be accessed directly within this dashboard, which you can see again on the slide deck here on the right-hand side. But we also have a seamless integration back to our CityWorks work management system to provide that connection and allow for updates and future planning to take place. So this provides, again, just seamless access to full request details, supporting more efficient and data-driven decision-making for the town of Ajax. So here's another. The next project I wanted to highlight is a project that, again, we partnered with our operations staff to transform our senior snow program using real-time data monitoring and reporting. So previously, our snow removal for our town senior snow program relied on static maps and paperwork, making it hard to track progress and respond quickly to resident inquiries. We have since introduced a digital solution where field crews can now view their locations and routes and track their work on their mobile devices, while their supervisor are able to monitor that progress in real time back in the office. This shift from a paper-based to digital tracking has streamlined our workflow and improved resource planning, allowing us to allocate crews and equipment more effectively. Residents now receive more accurate updates, and staff can respond to inquiries faster, thanks to the improved data accuracy and automated tracking. This efficiency directly benefits residents, as our teams can now focus more on service quality rather than paperwork, and residents experience quicker and more transparent communication. Our newest public-facing application, which you may have heard of, is our planning application dashboard. And we just launched this back in October, and it was developed in collaboration with our planning and development department, as well as our business solutions team in our technology and innovation division. This dashboard makes it easier than ever for residents, businesses, and council to explore active planning applications in our community. With this tool, you can search for applications by property address, file number, types of application, or year, and each result shows key details related to the application, other related applications, milestones, as well as downloadable documents, such as submitted plans. An interactive map displays where applications are located, providing spatial context, and users can explore the data further by filtering based on things like status, land use, application type, or ward, and see dynamic charts and counts of applications and related information. What makes this dashboard extra special is that it was actually built with the assistance of generative AI. We used AI to streamline our development and help us with coding and debugging this custom application. And this really is an innovative approach to developing an application like this. And as far as we're aware of, it's the first of its kind in the municipal world, which is really, really exciting. So this dashboard is really designed to improve transparency and give everyone easy access to planning application information, encouraging more informed community engagement in the growth that's happening around us. So these examples hopefully help demonstrate how GIS is not just a technical tool, it's really a driver of value and innovation for the town of Ajax. Overall, our GIS program has transformed from being a more reactive, bogged down, manual, siloed processes to more automated, integrated workflows with higher quality and accessible data. And this progress is really a direct result of Council's support and investment in our GIS team, as well as our Technology and Innovation Division as a whole. So one of the keys to our success has really been finding innovative ways to increase our team capacity. By automating repetitive tasks, like that parcel example that I shared before, with our ETL solution, as well as other AI tools, we have really been able to achieve significant time savings and increased our team's overall capacity, allowing for more time for innovation and looking in and testing new tools and diving into other data sets, which is exciting. So as a result, Ajax has really positioned itself as a leader among municipalities in innovation and responsible AI use in the GIS field, allowing us to deliver better service, greater efficiency, and more value for residents. So our team has received significant recognition over the past year, including winning the B-Spatial Award for Data Architecture and Coding, relating to a lot of the work that one of our senior analysts, Evan Seppa, did, creating some of these really cool applications. We've also been presenting at various conferences and chosen to present across kind of Ontario at different things. So our MISA Ontario conferences, as well as our CityWorks SIG. So these achievements have highlighted our leadership, again, in municipal GIS innovation and responsible AI usage in the municipal world, the GIS world. And again, thanks to Council's investment, Ajax is now setting benchmarks for others. We are having other municipalities reach out to us, wondering how we did things and asking some wonderful questions. And we're really blazing the trail in the field. So as we look ahead, the GIS team is really focused on building on our recent successes and continuing to innovate. We are currently working on several initiatives, such as some new public-facing applications. So our Ajax on the Map, which is a recreation and culture mapping application, as well as redeveloping pretty much all of the current mapping that we have on our website on ajax.ca. Ongoing engagement and feedback from council, as well as the community, is really vital to help ensure that the GIS continues to meet evolving needs of everyone. And I'm going to just leave with one last thing, is that every GIS initiative, including those that I covered today, really rely on one critical town asset, and that is data. So I am actually going to be back in January to share our vision on how we can better harness data at the town, and I'll be sharing some more cool front-facing applications there as well. So thank you so much for your attention, and I'd be happy to take any questions or comments that you have.
We like cool things, and that sounds really cool.
Yeah.
Councillor Morin. Oh, wait, I did the wrong one, sorry. I had a fat finger.
I don't go till it turns red. So.
Wait a sec. Councillor Bauer, can you put your request to speak on again? Sorry. Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for your report. Just as I often say, just quickly, so it is or will be available to us as councillors, the senior snow service tracking, let's say as an example, or will that be a public-facing as well?
Mm-hmm. So through the chair to Councillor Tyler Morin, currently this is an internal facing application, so it's really for our internal team at operations to track and assist them with the program and making sure that they're providing on the service. We don't currently have this accessible online, but it is something that we are exploring. Yeah.
So would we, as councillors, have access to this information?
Through the chair, not currently, but it is something that we can discuss further.
Yeah, because it would save us, like as local councillors, one of the first calls we get is when it, they pay for the senior snow removal program and they want to have it done as fast as anybody else. This would be a great tool, maybe not public, but at least for us, so we wouldn't have to bother staff so much. Robert Gamble and everybody that works for Director Meredith over there, they get hammered. Okay, so right now it's just internal, and we don't even have access to it. Is that correct?
Yes, exactly. At this point, if right now, if you had questions, obviously, we did just get snow. I was going to say maybe not yet, but maybe soon enough. If you did have questions, you could reach out to Robert Gamble, who has access to this at this point.
Okay.
But it could be something that we discuss further.
Thank you.
No problem.
Councillor Bauer.
Thank you so much, Chair. Good afternoon. Thank you so much. What an excellent presentation. Very informative. Thank you. Love to see that passion, and I had no idea GIS was so interesting and so cool. So my question is about the CityWorks slide. So is that related to, I think there's upgrades planned for AppJax, for that application where residents can submit pictures of things that they see that they want repaired?
So through the chair to Councillor Bauer, right now with AppJax, we are not able to fully integrate, but currently that information is being ported over into CityWorks, which is then being pulled into this dashboard.
Okay, so CityWorks would have every AppJax application ends up on this dashboard?
Yes.
Okay, and is that a project for the future where it will replace AppJax?
I may just jump in here.
Thank you.
Sorry, because AppJax's replacement relates to a project that Ms. Delpalme is not intimately involved in, which is our CRM project.
Oh, right. Okay.
So that project is nearing its conclusion and will be launched in sort of a soft way later this year, and then in a big way in the early 2026. But that is the project that will result in sort of improvements to that customer-facing piece that we now call AppJax.
Okay, wonderful, thank you. That was my only question. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I love that we are getting awards for this.
Yes.
And we need to submit this to AMO and maybe get an award there. There's an award. What's that award they give out? The Peter something? We need to submit it into AMO, because if we're like first doing this, I think it's amazing. So thank you very much for your passion. And it's probably best we don't know what we don't know. We'll just go with Robert. Maybe one day what we'll have is like a little tractor that will hook up with a seniors program going around, and we can just look at it with a snow plow, right? It'll have senior plow, right? Dave just is planning for his retirement now. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you
so much.
Thanks. Okay. Do we need to receive for information? No. Okay, we're good. Okay, thank you. Okay, where am I? Now we're going into in-camera. I need a motion to go into camera. Councillor Morin, vote please. Thank you.
To you, Madam Chair, can you please read the reasons we're going into closed session today?
Never mind. Don't vote yet. Number 1, the lexicon negotiation to discuss the position plan procedure criteria or instructions to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on behalf of our municipality or local board. Number 2, the crisis care facility bylaw to discuss advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communication necessary for that purpose. We voted. Is that okay? Okay, thank you. Did I vote? Yeah, okay, thank you. Okay, you need a minute?
Perfect, yeah.
Thanks.
Give us a couple.
You have a community meeting? I just need to have a mover on all the directions approved according to the closed session be ratified. Councillor Bauer, and I'm starting the vote. Thank you. I need a motion to adjourn. Councillor Tyler Morin, starting the vote. I don't know what happened there. Oh, okay. My iPad died. Is this the adjournment? Okay. Thank you, everyone. It's been a wonderful afternoon.